Are you ready?
Activate.
Sequence start 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
All right, everyone, now we have got the problem resolved. I figured out what it was, so I think we should be broadcasting live now, so let me apologize for that. Again, you are tuned into Shadows in the Dark, and I want to welcome everyone to tonight's show. We're gonna have a really great show tonight. We're going to be talking with our guest, Heidi Hollis, about her latest book, Jesus Is No Joke, a true story of an unlikely witness who saw Jesus. So before we get to that, we're going to take a few minutes here to let you know kind of what's going on around Shadows in the Dark, and a lot of new things, a lot of things in the making. So first we want to welcome our newest forum member, and that is Irby, or Irby. I'm not sure exactly how to say that, so sometimes screen names and account login names can get a little tricky. So, but we want to welcome them to the forum. And if you wish to sign up for the forum, it is free. Just go to www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com and sign up, have a little fun. We like to post all different kinds of things there. It's a very diverse forum, just like the show itself here. You know, a lot about the paranormal, conspiracies, UFOs. I mean, it's all over the place. We got sections for just to run off at the mouth if you want to. So go and check that out, www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com. And while you're there, feel free to sign up for our free newsletter as well. We send it out monthly, try to keep you up to date on what's going on right here. Now, one thing to really keep in mind is that we're kind of broadcasting out of schedule this coming weekend, and what we're doing is I'm going to be attending a conference in Blowing Rock. It is called the Green Park Inn Paranormal Conference. It is their first year of doing it, and it's such an honor to be able to have been asked to take part in this. So what we're doing is Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we are going to be broadcasting live from the Green Park Inn, so make sure to tune into that. But now, being that we're going to broadcast Saturday, we are not going to broadcast Sunday. So don't look for us on Sunday, look for us on Saturday. So again, that is 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're only going to do an hour broadcast from there because it was honestly the only time I could find in the schedule to do this, because they're going to be doing ghost hunting, they're going to have speakers, vendors are setting up. I mean, between the meals, it was very hard to find a place to broadcast. So we hope that you do tune in that day, again, Saturday, 6:30 p.m. That is Eastern Time. Now, another thing, of course, we're right around the corner from the holidays, and here we are just moving very quickly to, what is it, like a month or so away from Christmas alone. So what we've done is, of course, we have our web store, and if you wish to go to our web store and put in the coupon code, Happy Holidays, that is 2 words, Happy Holidays, you will receive 15% off of any order that you place through our web store. Again, just go to www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com. Now, speaking of our newsletter, excuse me, everyone, if you have already signed up for the newsletter, you should have received one today saying that we have switched over to a new program to use for this. Now, the reason why we did is because this really keeps your information protected, and your account for the newsletter is actually password protected, and if you've ever signed up for newsletters, very few do this. The reason why we chose to do this, because if somebody knew your email, they could have easily went in and either unsubscribed you or messed around with any kind of information that was required for the email. So what we've done is we found this great new program. We put it in place. We launched it today. It took me some while to kind of make it look the way that I wanted to, but it's all ready to go. So if you are currently a newsletter member, then you should have received the email, and you can go in and change your preferences, which you can add a password. Right now, it will let you in without that password, but once you do go in, you have to set that password, and anytime you want to change anything, like change your email address, your name, you can go on there and do that, but you do have to have that password. If you ever forget it, there is an option to choose for, forgot my password, and it will email it to you. So make sure to check that out if you are a newsletter subscriber. And if you're not, of course, well, you're more than welcome to sign up. Now, our last bit of thing going on is I had seen this last year, and I thought this year, why not? Let's play around with it and see what happens. If you've heard of it, it's called the Bloggers Choice Awards. It's a website where you can nominate or vote on some of your favorite blogs, and that does include podcasts. So we thought, why not drop our name in the bucket? So we put our name in there, and we hope that you will take the time to go over there and vote for us. It is free to vote. I mean, you do have to sign up for a free account, but you can choose all the options for them not to bother you. But you do have to sign up to vote. We have it linked on our homepage, or I believe so. Let me just double check. Yeah, we sure. You'll see a button on our page that says Bloggers Choice Awards. This site was nominated for Best Podcast Blog, which is the category that it's put in. You can click on that button. We have it also on our profile page here on Blog Talk Radio, as well as a link to it as well. So, if you feel like it and you want to, take the time to sign up for the account and vote for us, we would really appreciate it. And who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and win. I don't know if the winner gets anything at all, but I thought it'd just be a little bit of fun to see what happens and just to put our name in the mix. So go out there and vote for us if you can. All right, everyone, we're going to take a quick little break. And like I said, we're going to be speaking with our special guest tonight, Heidi Hollis, about her new book, Jesus Is No Joke. And I have had the opportunity to read the book. It's a great book, so I'm excited to be talking to her tonight. So hang tight, don't go anywhere, and we will be back in just a moment.
Want more from Shadows in the Dark? Visit our website and sign up for our free newsletter. Become a member in our forum and check out our online store. Just visit www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com, where the darkness is illuminated.
Heidi Hollis is the founder and director of the UFO and paranormal discussion group, UFO2U.com, since 1998. She has been involved in looking into paranormal phenomena from a very young age for over 20 years and is an advocate to bring all out-of-the-norm topics to a comfortable level where they can be spoken of frankly and openly with a hint of humor. Heidi, how are you today?
I'm great, Jeremiah. How are you?
I am doing great myself, and it is a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. I'm really looking forward to talking about your latest book here.
Oh, awesome. I'm really honored that you had me on the show. This is great.
All right. Well, I gave just briefly there, a little bit of a bio, and of course it was, there's a lot more to it, and it would, take me quite a while to read the entire thing. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how exactly you got interested in the paranormal itself?
Well, as a lot of us have started off, having some run-ins with some paranormal things myself as a kid, having grown up in what I thought was truly a haunted home. And that turned into, I had an interest in it. I guess it sparked my interest, is the way to say. And I went from an interest in that to an interest in the topic of UFOs and aliens. Something odd had happened to myself and my younger sister that led me to kind of look down the road of the topic of UFOs and aliens. And lo and behold, I had started off as, raised in a Christian home and all, and kind of turned away from churchly things when I was seeing and experiencing things that I didn't feel the church addressed, only to come full circle. As you see with the new book, Jesus Is No Joke, having written on that now. So I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed the book.
Well, I did enjoy it, and it was a great read, I have to say, and a little different than what I'm used to reading for the show. I'll be honest. I'll be honest about that. But you definitely talking about that hint of humor. There is that humor in it, which always makes a book even more enjoyable. And I love how you at times you're kind of poking fun at yourself and. It really was a great read. So, kind of pointless to ask what really inspired you to write the book. Obviously, it was, having visitations from Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, how did that all start for you then? You definitely talk about this more than one time that it happened. So.
Right. It's funny because it's like, a lot of people don't understand how I made such a leap. And I'm like, it really wasn't a leap. It was just about keeping it real and not, trying to step over or pretend something didn't happen when it did. For myself, having experienced what I had in the way of paranormal activity and having seen UFOs and something that may have been alien-related and ghosts, for myself to turn and to look at the topic of Jesus, it wasn't foreign to me. It was something I was raised with. So, but again, it's like, I was a skeptic when it came to people that claimed to have seen Jesus from everything to their bowl of soup to a tree trunk. It was just like, to me, it was ridiculous. It's like, what's going on here? I figured, UFOs, aliens, and ghosts would be more real than these sudden apparitions that people were reporting. So when it came time for me, I've had 4 encounters with Jesus myself, and the first one was July 19th, 1999, and it happened quite innocently. I'd come home from work. I worked an early shift, and I came home, told my college roommate, could you please turn your TV down so I could get some sleep. I was going to take an afternoon nap, and it was summertime. The sun was still shining, and I went into my bedroom, and I literally just kicked my legs up onto the bed and put my head down, and just as abruptly as me putting my head down, it felt like I fell through my pillow. And it was so dramatic, like, I was like, whoa, where am I? I'm like, I'm looking around, and I'm just like, okay. I was trying to make sense of what had taken place, and I found myself in this place that looked familiar to me, which was near my parents' home, like right outside my parents' home, and I'm like, okay, Heidi, somehow you got here, and you just don't remember how you got here. So, and in fact, I was supposed to be meeting friends here soon, and one friend by the name of Quincy that I was supposed to be meeting, and I'm totally trying to make sense of it, and I saw a man in the distance walking my way. And from his size and stature, I thought it was my friend Quincy, and almost immediately, I knew that I was wrong. This man started coming closer to me, and being kind of the goofball I am, I put my face in my hands, and I was like, this is not happening, because I had an immediate recognition as to who this man was, and he came up close to me, and he said hello, as if, he was going to talk about the weather or something in that sentence, and I was like, hello,
Yeah.
And he said, do you know who I am? If you knew who I was, you would not hesitate to say it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this man's going to make me say it. And I stuttered, I was just like, well, you're Jesus. And I don't speak Spanish. And he said, yes, I am. And as I was saying his name, and I took my hands away from my eyes, and I looked up at him, and lo and behold, here is this man that I honestly, I knew he existed. I figured him to be something of the past, this ancient figure, but not someone that I thought like I really, really needed to understand. I understood God, and I figured I was good,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I looked up, and I saw this this image of Jesus, literally very much like how they describe him in paintings of old, of depictions of Jesus in a flowing white robe. I saw shoulder-length hair, and I saw what looked like a very bright light from behind his head, and it shadowed his face. And he started speaking about his life and things that he aimed to do and how so much needed to be done. And they weren't, I know I heard words, but they weren't exact words. It was more like images and feelings were being floated my way. And I'm listening to him, but me still being me, I'm just like, Heidi, oh my gosh, this is really happening. He's here, you're here, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, really taking it in, because it was just as real as I'm sitting here on my chair.
Right.
And I looked down to the ground, and I'm like, gosh, why is the ground so close to me? And I'm like, I exclaimed in my head, I was just like, I'm on my knees. I don't even remember going on my knees, and I guess he realized Heidi wasn't paying attention, and he stopped speaking, and I looked up from the ground that I was so amazed that I was so close to, and I looked up at him, and I'm like, well, and I'm still stuttering, and I'm like, well, what do you want me to do, It's like, oh my gosh, and he said, first you need to show us some things, and I'm like, us? Thinking to my head, and I'm like, oh my goodness, he's talking about his dad, and he went on to tell me, don't be discouraged by what other people say. Know that I'll be there to give you the words. That I was to finish writing my book that I was writing at the time, which is the Secret War book, based on shadow people and the conflict in alien contact between positive and negative aliens. And I was like, whoa, okay. And he went on to say some other things that I knew I wasn't meant to recall at the time, as if it was something that would be stored in my head for a later time. And just absolutely amazing. And I knew he had to go, and I was like, think of something, Heidi, quick, ask him something,
Right.
And I'm like, what's my real name? And he was just starting to fade off into one of the walls, and he laughed real lightly, and it was like such a emanating laugh, although it was light, and he said, I love you very much, Ilea. And I was just like, okay, I got to hold on to his name, I'm like, this is really, this really took place, and, he started to disappear, I started to come back into my body, and it's funny, it's like the love that was in the air. I mean, you don't think that love has any kind of thickness to it, but it was in the air, and it just trickled all over my very being. And when I returned back to my bed, I was just like laying there, still feeling what I felt when he was close to me, and I didn't want to move, so I was like, I want to just absorb this as much as I can. And then when I thought, okay, let me get my roommate's attention and let her know, my goodness, I just had an experience with Jesus. And I went to knock on the wall when I realized that I couldn't move, and because another presence had suddenly, it was strange. It felt like something robbed me of my ability to move, and I got pulled into another scenery. And you having read the book, I know you're like, I know this story.
Yeah, it gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
So, before we go into that one, because definitely want to, because I mean they went,
right.
This experience was back to back, kind of two, separate experiences. Yeah. Right. But I had a few questions from the chat room.
Okay.
The first one, Dr. Harry Frick was asking, did Jesus appear as a non-physical being or physical, or as a person?
In this vision that I had, he looked very solid, very real. But because it wasn't a vision-like state, I mean, you'd have to, say it was more of a spirit in that sense. But when I saw him, he was as I've seen him depicted. And I mean, honestly, I really didn't think of Jesus as being not a big force in my life. I mean, I was Christian. I prayed. I prayed to God, and you have to say your prayers in Jesus' name. You know, I followed that, but
Right.
I didn't really get all into it. Let's put it that way. If that answers.
Yeah. Okay. And the other one coming from GL in the chat room as well, and this was you briefly touched on it in the book, and kind of asking. Let me scroll up a little bit just to make sure I get it right. If did he appear to be white or black or Jewish, Hispanic, Arabic, and you touched on it in the book.
I did, yes. He wasn't as fair skinned as I have seen him depicted in paintings. No, he did have a little brown tone to him. So yeah. He was a little bit darker than what I've seen him as. Yeah.
And I know you kind of say in the book that you really, and I guess it would be understandable, realizing who was in front of you, that you really didn't pay that much attention.
Right.
Because of, and understandable.
Well, yeah. And it's like, I think sometimes people get so caught up in the details that they miss the message. I mean, it's not about if his sandals were black or brown,
Right.
It's just, this is indeed him. And, I often get asked, how do you know that was Jesus? And I used to always ask that too. I'm like seeing pictures of Jesus on a, grilled cheese sandwich and Mary or something. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But you know what? I tell people I could have been blind and seen it was him because every cell in my body screamed his name. It was such an immediate recognition. There is no question when you're in his presence. I mean, from somebody being a skeptic, here I am, the paranormal lady, the alien advice giver, and me being met with, me not believing that something like that could really happen to other people, and to get smacked upside the head and go, hey Heidi, I am here. Something also to note, in my first book, The Secret War, I wrote in one of my chapters that about people having claimed to see Jesus being, a little off kilter. And, of course, after this encounter that I had, this one in July of 99, thank gosh the book had not been published at that time, and I was able to go and rewrite that chapter, and I put my first experience in there because, I think part of the reason why he came that first time was, to, of course, steer me to not steer others down the, into believing that he really didn't exist, So I'm glad that I had that opportunity because, boy, oh boy, that would have been something to pay back for big time.
Yeah, and now, and speaking of kind of being, such a name in the paranormal community, what was the reaction from them? You say, given, alien advice and, having this, paranormal discussion group, and all of a sudden you kind of like, hey, I met Jesus the other night. What was the reaction?
Well, my friends that were, outside of the paranormal realm, I guess you could say, I mean, I would always tell them, oh, you're going to church today, say a prayer for me, because if I step foot in the church, I'd probably start on fire, just being silly, because my friends thought because I talked about aliens and ghosts that I was into devil worshiping, obviously, or something crazy like that, So I would just play upon it, and let me tell you, after I'd seen him, I was just like, I'm like, well, you keep going to church, Jesus is no joke. That's what I kept telling people. I'm like, I saw him, I know what took place, and my friends are like, wow, for you to talk like this, Heidi, something major must have happened. And I was like, look, I'm about being honest and keeping it real. If something I feel is the truth, I'm going to try my best to say it the right way. So no matter how many odd lists of words I might put together to get it out, but I will. So, so people were a little surprised, and it's funny. I'm coming forward with this book, Jesus is No Joke, now, because I mean, it was something that I'd written some time ago, but, you know, of course, in the publishing world, it's not easy to get books put out there.
No.
So it took some time, but my book, The Secret War, was written in '97 and published in 2001, based on Shadow People, and I had this first experience in '99 with Jesus. So this had happened. This had been a part of who I was, going out on the circuit for the first time, you know, talking about aliens, you know, and people just didn't know, although it was in the book. So for some of these shows and stuff that I've been talking on, it's new to them, but it's really not new. I'm just kind of being more forward about it, and I try my best. I really don't try to blend the two topics of, you know, Jesus and UFOs and whatever. I mean, could I? Yes, but I think Jesus can stand on his own. You know, I think that why confuse people as long as they get the point that he is very real, and it's left me speechless on numerous occasions, and trying to you know, get the right words to put together how real he is, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if you like, I could talk a little bit what happened after that first encounter with him, because when I was laying on the bed and I said I tried to move and I felt like I was being robbed of my movement, I suddenly felt drugged back into another scene, and again, you know, being who I am, I'm looking around, I'm like, where the heck am I this time? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a rendition of my parents' home once again, but this was a really poor job, and I was just like looking at it and like, gosh, this isn't quite right. And I felt this creature come up behind me and lean over my shoulder, and it said, "Are you sure of what you saw?" And it had like this snake-like way of dragging out its S's. And I looked at it, and it had blackened eyes, and it wore like the face of a family member of mine, real loosely. And I looked at it, and I'm like, what? You know? And I said, "Are you sure of what you saw?" It repeated again. He said, "Are you sure it wasn't Quincy that you saw?" Because that's the friend I had thought previously was Jesus when I first saw him in the distance. And he said, "There goes a Quincy now." And sure enough, an image of my friend popped up. And this Quincy walked the length of the room and stopped. And I'm like, what is going on here? And it said, "There goes another one," this thing said, and pointed, you know, again. And it did this like 3-4 times. And all these Quincy's had walked like a certain length of the room and stopped. And I'm like, look, I don't know who you are or what you're trying to pull, but I know what I saw, and I started to say it was Jesus I saw, and this thing wanted to lunge my throat when I started to say the name Jesus. And eventually it got mad, and this, I heard what sounded like 1,000 windows crashing, and I saw this odd creature running toward me with a weird-looking dagger, and all the Quincy's I felt were coming my way, and all I remember was like kind of throwing my heart rope up and saying, "Oh God, help me get out of this one," you know, and boom, I was like pulled back into my body and boom, back on my bed. And let me tell you, I was wailing on the wall, just pounding to get my college roommate's attention. She came running in like, "What's going on?" And I was just like trying to catch my breath, and was like, okay, I'm not going to give as much attention to what took place just now with that last one, but, you know, I started telling her about the Jesus encounter I had, and I knew that whatever this demonic thing was that came to follow up, it was as if it would get some kind of power or strength from me to be able to deny or show confusion about what it was I had experienced in seeing Jesus. And as if my words had that much weight that it was trying to get me to say, "Oh, well, it could have been just Quincy," you know, or something. I was so puzzled. Why so quick? I mean, just so immediate after having this beautiful experience to having this demonic thing try to rob me of that experience. So it was pretty disturbing, and it lets me know that where there's light, darkness is soon to follow. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, reading about it, imagine how. I can imagine how frightening it could be to be in a situation like that. I mean, I've never had anything like that happen to myself, and another thing, this strangeness, the paranormal is as you even mentioned earlier, wasn't something new for you.
Right.
From an early age, these
right.
were things that you experienced, hauntings and shadow people.
Right. So I guess having had what I had experienced, having under my belt, that it made it a little bit more tolerable and not as much of a mystery, I guess you could say, as to why strangeness was coming my way. But I would never in a million years think that I could or would see Jesus. And it's one of those things you hear about, you read about, and you go, well, that's nice for them. Whatever their belief is, apparently, the powers that be played into that.
Mm-hmm.
But something important to note, that doesn't always happen that way, because I for one was not somebody that was religious, and I had a good friend who was very much Jewish that had an encounter with Jesus not too long after I'd had my encounters. And for someone that was totally not exposed to this topic, and to have had a physical sit-down conversation with Jesus, my friend, he was fully changed. And a lot of people ask me, well, did he switch from, Judaism over to Christianity? I'm like, he did not.
Mm-hmm.
But when people would say anything about, Jesus or Christian, and kind of, make apologies for talking about it, he was very, very stern to say Jesus is my friend too. And,
right.
It was, in fact, he was looking into, he's heard of different faiths that were like Jews for Jesus, but he didn't like the sounds of that one. He was looking at other things, but so, yeah, but it doesn't, Jesus doesn't try to cater to your faith. If he wants to say hi, he's going to stop by and, give you a message or two.
Hey, well, if you're just tuning in, you are listening to Shadows in the Dark, and we are speaking tonight with Heidi Hollis about her new book, Jesus is No Joke, a true story of an unlikely witness who saw Jesus. And if you wish to call in, that number is 718-508-9887. If you're a little shy, you can send an email to jgreer@shadowsinthedarkradio.com with your questions, or even send us your question through Yahoo Messenger at Jeremiah Greer. That's all one word, and we will definitely ask Heidi the question that you have sent to us. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up is, you talk about, when you were a child and your experiences at church and the impression that it had on you, and even a specific, asking your pastor a question.
Yeah.
And the way it made you feel. And, at such an early age, for someone to be, looking at religion and spirituality kind of like the way you describe in the book is, somewhat unique, I would have to say. I can't say, there's all kinds of 6-year-olds running around saying, praise God. So, you don't see it. So.
Right. Yeah. I was, myself and my younger sister, we would see things that most people did not, and kind of get little glimpses of the future, kind of like little deja vu that kind of shot a little bit forward, and we were able to, realize that this was something different. And I wanted to find out, and she wanted to find out, what the church thought of people who were able to see the future, or know things that others couldn't, or see things others couldn't. And I spoke to a Sunday school teacher who was ordained minister of a church, and I asked him, what do you think of people like that? And he said something along the lines of, only God knows the future, and only the devil would tell it.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, he's saying we're in touch with something evil, and although he had no idea I was asking for myself and my sister, but his answer really changed, my idea about getting, confirmed to the church. I was like, this is, something's missing here then, because I don't feel evil, and this is happening though. This is something that, I'm experiencing and something that my sister's experiencing, and we felt okay, we felt positive, so I made sure I didn't get confirmed to my church, and which, I might have gone a little bit further and looking for answers in that direction had I, got a little bit more reassurance that, God does talk to people in those manners too. It's not just all devil doing things,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. But, I've mentioned I'd had 4 encounters with Jesus, and the second encounter that I had was quite amazing. This is one that's a little bit complicated because it took some time for it to sink into my thick head what was going on. But this was in December of '99, and I woke up because I felt there was a presence in the room, and immediately I could feel, having had the encounter I did in July, that it was him again. It was Jesus, and I propped myself up on my elbows, and I looked to the foot of the bed because I could see that there was light in my room, and it looked like a ray of sunshine coming through my wall, and it was hitting my feet, and I'm like, oh wow, and it was such an amazing feeling, a sensation of his presence touching me physically like that. Although I did not see him physically, and I was like looking around. I'm like, I don't see him, but I could feel him. And why isn't he talking? I'm thinking, and I saw this light, and I saw parts of the light like breaking off and going up my legs and going up my torso and spinning around in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, to myself, why isn't he speaking still? And when the light hit my stomach, it was like, I describe it like being in a hammock that swinging between 2 trees, and like a strong wind comes and blows you upside down. I was 1 second looking at the light, and all of a sudden, swoop! I was like swooped upside down, and I'm looking down at my body, and I was out of my body, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that was an experience, and I'm watching this light spin around in my stomach area, and again, I'm thinking, what's going on? What's he doing? And then I think this thought, like, is he healing me? And I'm
Right.
like, because I had been diagnosed with a pretty horrible disorder for about 10 years at the time. And I don't know why I had this god-awful, like, big thing called doubt that threw into my head. And I was like, no, he wouldn't do that. It's just like not for me. And and also I'd had an angelic like encounter where they said they didn't do healings, and so I just figured, no, this is not. He wouldn't do that for me. And the second I thought that, slam! I went right back into my body, and I'm like propped myself up on my elbows, and I'm patting myself. And I'm like, whoa, where'd he go? What happened? And I saw the light had stopped coming from the wall, and the lights that were spinning around my stomach kind of sunk in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, what a strange thing for him to come like that, not say a word, and just kind of, do whatever that was and go away. And it was strange. It's like it took some time, and I had gone to the doctor, and it was like, I don't know, a couple of years or something, and I had gotten, to see how terrible my disorder had progressed. And my doctor was like puzzled. He's like, you know, this is about 12 years of having this, you know, awful disorder. It was a digestive disorder with ulcers that could show up through your colon and all sorts of stuff. And he's like, well, we can't find the disease anymore. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you can't find it? He's like, I don't know. It's not there. And I'm like, after all these years of biopsies and monitoring and medications, and I was like, oh wow, okay. And I'm like, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, would Jesus have done something at that time? I still had all the symptoms of the disease. So that's the puzzling part. I still had symptoms of it, and I had a meeting with my UFO and paranormal discussion group, and someone had come there seeking to be healed by aliens and wondering how she could go about doing that. And someone in the group said, well, you know, only Jesus heals, you know, aliens wouldn't do such a thing, you know. And I could have just, like, slapped a dunce cap on my head and called it the day, because it was like, it really hit me, like, I when I said the words, I think Jesus healed me. And everybody was like, what? You know, what are you talking about, Heidi? And I spoke about what took place, and I'm like, but they can't find the disorder anymore. And you know, that when I was able to accept that he would have done that for me, my symptoms went away. And yes, I took some supplements to try to balance out my system again and stuff, but, you know, to have had that realization and that accepting and having no doubt, not doubting what he would have done for me, that's when, you know, the disorder completely, with symptoms and all, you know, went away. So if, you know, I tell people, was it a misdiagnosis? Was you know, for 12 years, you know, it's like, could that be it? I'm no doctor, you know, but I'm just being honest to say that I was healed. I feel I was healed, and I don't doubt that. Oh gosh, I wouldn't dare to doubt it. So absolutely amazing for me personally.
And you know, yeah, I'd have to agree that if you believe something is going to happen, or you don't have doubt, it definitely makes it more of a possibility to happen. And having that doubt, you know, it's just, you know, something you can't have. Now, a few other questions from the chat room as we've, you know, just to let you know, we got about 14 minutes or so before we hit the break. This one coming from Superior Awesomeness. I just love that screen name, to be honest. Our listener from Sweden, as a matter of fact, asking, you know, were you ever given any kind of mission, or was this more of just Jesus kind of popping in to say hello and let you know he was there and he did exist?
You know, one thing that I feel that was empowering for myself, I have an absolute fear of stage fright. I mean, like, I've given up grades in college to not have to present nothing. You know, and it's like, when he's in my first encounter with him, when he said, you know, do not be discouraged by what others say, know that I'll be there to give you the words. Every time I've done a radio show, a lecture, anything, you know, and I feel like running out the door because I really don't want to do it. I like look up to the heavens and I'm like, okay, you promised me you'd give me the words. Now I'm holding you to it, you know, because it's not easy. It's not easy doing, you know, going out and talking about such things and not knowing how it will be, you know, received. I really could care less, you know, what people think. You know, it's just getting the nerve to get up there and actually do it. But so that's one thing. And yes, he did. You know, I think he knew what I would do with the information and having had the encounters. I mean, he knows me better than I know myself. So it's like, okay, that goofball Heidi, you know, she might present this topic in a different light than others would, and I don't think that you've heard of too many people write along the lines of the way that I did, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
It's like these, in the light of, seeing Jesus and all. Some of the books, I mean, they serve their purpose. I love them. But for me, it's like when words are written too fluffy, it kills my attention sometimes. And it's like I just I lose focus, and I'm like, oh, these airy words, and I just try to speak as I would to my friends, because I think that's the best way to communicate anything. So I think he knew that I would present it in a way that was comfortable for people to pick up and read, even if they're not used to talking about or reading about these topics, the topic of Jesus. People haven't seen Jesus, of all things. So
yeah. And I have to agree with you on that. I mean, it was it was almost like you were sitting in front of you, of the reader, talking and, cracking a joke or even commenting on something you had just, typed out. And, so many, so many books, on Jesus and religion can really get very analytical and can lose the reader in just trying to break everything down, and you approach it more of, okay, this is what happened, and easy to read terms. This is what I think it was, what was kind of going on, and here's my feelings about it. And it was a very easy read. I never at one point felt like you were going over my head.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's the kind of way that I would like to have a topic I'm not used to being, to be presented to me, because I want to be able to relate. I want to be able to get it and not feel like, this is too much. I can't handle this, or, oh, not that topic again. I don't even want to look at it, I just couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to keep it real. But, yeah, so if anything, I think that was more of the mission, if anything. I do have a recollection that, it's so strange. It's like, even when I talk about some of these things, it's like, wow, if I were sitting there listening to this lady talk about this stuff, I'd be like, whoa, where did she come from? But I don't know. I have to keep it real, and I can't deny my own experiences. No, they're not anybody else's. I hope people can realize that, I'm trying to be honest about things, and
right.
Just go from there. I'm not trying to drive things home, but I had an experience, or I guess you could say like a flashback of being someplace else before I was born, like literally coming from a light, coming to be born here. It is nothing I have, words to explain to, what happened and how, but I knew that then, if there were a mission to be done, I remembered then that it was to come and help break some things down and put the word out about some things. So, but it's nice to know, hearing from other people that, wow, I can relate to that. I had that same kind of memory come back to me out of the blue, and encounters and with Jesus and stuff too. I have a pretty cool story to relate. I was at a conference earlier this year in April, a UFO conference, mind you, and I was there, and I had spoken at this conference before, and I brought my Jesus book with me. I was just signing books and whatnot, and people came up to my table and they're asking, are you gonna speak at the conference this year? And I'm like, oh no, because my new book's on Jesus, and I don't want to impose Jesus at a UFO conference.
Right.
And I had a dozen people or more ask me this question, and when I told them about, I have this new book on Jesus, they're like, oh, then you really got to get up there and talk. And I'm like, what? What's going on here? And then 6 different people pulled me to the side at this conference and shared with me their personal encounters with Jesus. Like, it always starts off with, I've never told anybody this, but, and I was like, what's going on here? And I'm like, after, all these people, 20 or more people talking to me like this, I went up and I was like, okay. I asked the conference organizer, do you have a time slot open? You know, because I guess I'd like to talk a little bit.
Right.
And sure enough, I got a chance to get up there, and you would not believe the reaction. People were so open to it because I didn't try to drive it home in people's heads. I just, I was just honest, and I'm like, look, I know what I talk on usually. I know, you're used to hearing this type of a lecture, but, people ask me to get up here to talk, so here I am. And, I mean, it was such a warm and welcoming feeling that I got from the audience, and it really was inspiring for me. And, I think a lot more people are open to this topic than others realize because, they're pulling people like me to the side to whisper it in my ear. And I think that a lot more talking among ourselves needs to take place because a lot of information is being missed and a lot of stories are not being shared. And my email box fills up with stories of, encounters with Jesus and, other topics. And, this would not be so rare or unique if people only realized how often and frequent these things are going on. And, I can't sit on this information. I have to get out and talk to people, and that's what I'm trying to do. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, let us. We haven't gave up your website yet, or where Jesus Is No Joke is available as well as your other books. So you do that right fast for us.
Sure. If you go to HeidiHollis.com, you could go to all my other sites off in there. I've got quite a few. JesusIsNoJoke.com, UFO, the number 2, the letter U.com, AlienAdvice.com, Shadows.UFO2U.com, just tons. But, HeidiHollis.com is the best one to go to. That'll steer you to whichever piece of information you'd like. And I tell people feel free to, send me an email, let me hear their thoughts about anything that I'm doing, books, the shows, or whatever. I mean, I love hearing back from people because it helps me, sharpen my skills. Because
right.
I don't have a big enough ego to say, oh, I know it all, this is the way it is. I'm on this planet to learn as everybody else, and I think ego is our biggest enemy. So I'm here to grow and hopefully help, so I'm trying my best.
Mm-hmm. Now, so your books are available on your websites as well, right?
Yes, and if they go to any bookstore and ask for the books, if they don't have it on the shelves, they will order it. They can order it. So, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and any bookstore. So, and my newest book is coming out called Picture Prayers, kind of in the same theme as this Jesus book, learning how to pray like the angels do. After I had an interesting encounter that I touched on in this book, Jesus No Joke. I think what is it, chapter 11? I think Picture Prayer chapter, something like that.
It was one of the chapters. Yes.
Yeah, I expanded on that to share what had taken place more in depth in the practice of learning to pray in pictures as the angels do. So something a little different, and made life a lot easier for me. Let me tell you, because I put a lot of pressure on myself to learn how to pray right, and say the amens and have my fingers clasped, and my hands put together and on my knees, and the whole shebang. And I've found that there is a simpler way, and it works just as well, and it's kind of like an open forum for myself. So Picture Prayers is coming out in April. So. Oh,
okay. Well, something to look forward to. And for anybody out there listening, if you have any problems finding any of Heidi's websites, we have it all linked from ours at www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com, as well as I think we also have your MySpace and YouTube up there as well, and links to your books. So if they have any trouble finding, they can find it that way. Well, I tell you what, I think this is a good time to go ahead and let's go into a break before we get into anything else. I still have a few A few other questions noted down here from the chat room, so we'll start off with those when we come back from the break. So you up for a break?
I sure am. Let's do it.
All right. Well, everybody out there listening, we will be back in a few minutes. We're going to take a little bit of a break. And because Superior Awesomeness is joining us in the chat room tonight, we're going to play one of our breaks with some throat singing because we know how much he enjoys that. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes or so. We'll continue discussing Heidi Hollis's new book, Jesus is No Joke. So back in a moment.
Visit www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com today to sign up for our free newsletter. Join as a member of our forum or browse our online store where you can find books, CDs, and DVDs, like a signed copy of The President's Vampire by Robert Damon Schneck, or the complete works of Dr. Gary Frick for only $20. That's 4 books signed by Dr. Frick that carry a great message. You will also find downloadable products like Mysteries Magazine and the Donald Kehoe interviews, DVDs featuring Charlie Carlson and Mr. Lobo. So go to www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com today and be a part of the show.
Please remember to rate our shows, as your opinion is very valuable to us. We want to make Shadows in the Dark the best possible show it can be here on Blog Talk Radio and even over the entire Internet. So help us make that goal a reality by rating the shows and giving us your honest feedback.
All right, everyone, welcome back. You are tuned in to Shadows in the Dark right here on Blog Talk Radio. We are also syndicated on the Black Vault Radio Network at blackvaultradio.com, ParaX at para-x.com, Planet Paranormal at planetparanormal.com, and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network at paranormalradionetwork.com. And just want to say that Superior Awesomeness there is saying throat singing for life. I have to agree. It's just some great music. Well, if you're just tuning in, we are speaking with our guest tonight, Heidi Hollis, about her latest book, Jesus is No Joke. So, Heidi, you still with us?
I'm still here.
All right. So what did you think about some of that throat singing?
You know, that was pretty cool. I like it.
That is that one right there is one everybody loves. You can't go wrong with Ashu Dikio. Let me tell you that.
Right. Oh yeah, that was cool. I love that. That's funky.
So I'm sorry, I was just laughing at the chat room. They're telling me that I need to do throat singing. I've been learning or trying to learn throat singing so I can make a fool of myself even more in front of thousands of people. Just the thing I need to do.
Oh my gosh.
Well, let's. I have got a couple questions here from the chat room. I wanted to get in there as we get started here on the second hour of the show. And these are both from GL, who is hanging out in the chat room there. The first one was a little earlier on, saying when you had the encounters with Jesus and he came to you, did you notice anything like the historical Jesus in terms of like scars? Where it had the thorn, the crown of thorns, or where the nails. Did you notice anything like that?
I did not. No, I did not see that. No.
Okay. Just
yeah.
They wanted to ask, and we asked, so I just want to get it out there. And this one also comes from GL, in which is most definitely a common debate among many people. I've been in that debate myself. This particular question myself many times. Do you believe that Jesus is God, or that they are one and the same, or that they are two separate entities?
Oh boy, you're just trying to get me into trouble, don't you?
Yeah, it's one that it's like I said, it's one of the most debatable things. When it comes to Christianity, this is one that really strikes a nerve.
Yeah, it does, and I'm going to politely decline. No. Well, no, because it's not my place to try to steer people to believe, one thing over another. If one thing is better suits them, great, but for myself, God is God, Jesus is Jesus, and they are related very much as we are to our Father, and to say distinctly if, they're absolutely separate, are we absolutely separate from our parents? I don't think so, because when I think I'm totally, an independent person, I find out I have like an odd habit my dad has that I never knew he had. So it's like, it's one of those things. So I'm gonna kind of leave it up in the air for people to decide on their own, because it's not my place to say this is so, really. So.
Well, that's understandable. Like I said, it's a very controversial question, and throwing out your opinion can get you in trouble with a lot of people. So, most definitely. Well, hey, it looks like we've got a caller on the line here, so let's get them on. And I believe I know who this is. So, come on, let's get it unmuted. Well, I had it unmuted, and I muted it back. There we go, Dr. Frick.
Very good.
Yeah. How are you?
We could turn this to a game show. Guess who I am? Well, I just want you to know that listening to this show brings a chill down my spine. I could almost feel the energy in the air when you talk about your experiences. In fact, I've had similar experiences.
Wow.
I've written 5 books actually on spiritual communication. Jesus has communicated with me before. He hasn't written through me, but I really felt the chill down my spine when you gave me some descriptions of what you experienced.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I couldn't wait to call you. Then I found out you get a lot of emails from people too who say that so you're not alone, and neither am I.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, because we really need to start voicing, what's going on, and I applaud you for, making the effort to call and to talk to us, to everybody, because it's so very important that, we let others know that this is not odd or rare. God and Jesus haven't stopped talking to people. They're both around and giving messages all the time. And there's so much that needs to be said and done yet, in connection to them. So it's I really applaud you for calling and letting me know that too, because I'm more inspired by the stories and hearing from people like yourself. So this is great.
There are so many questions I could ask. I wouldn't know where to begin. I'll just pick the few best ones that
cool.
One of them I know was asked by somebody in the chat room, but I didn't hear it asked yet. But did you get any messages? Did he give you any indication that you had a message to send to the world, or specific things to teach people, or a purpose as far as any take-home messages?
Well, one thing that was really, really moving for me when I had a physical encounter with him, my third encounter, when he just showed up in my bedroom, and I sat up and I just was in awe of him, and the outright empathy that poured off from him, like feeling absolutely every pain in the world. Everybody always talks about, where's God, when we need him, or Jesus when we need him, how could they allow such things to go on? And it's like, he feels absolutely everything. And I felt his urge to come back very soon. And that was in March of 2000 that I had that encounter with him. So it was a very, very distinct wanting to come back and to make everything better. And if there's something that is some process, something that needs to be done still, as to why he hasn't returned as of yet. But his feeling was so strong to come back as soon as possible. I tell people, get on top of it, whatever it is that you need to fix in your life, because he's unbelievable. His presence just overwhelms you. So that's something that I try to put out there as well.
Now, when you say come back, in what sense?
Mm-hmm.
You talking about a second coming, or?
He didn't give me a specific name for it. I just know that he wanted to come back to make things right, that there were too many things going on wrong that need to be corrected. And I don't know what process, what it is exactly he's waiting on, but there is something he is waiting on. And once that's complete, I mean, his fury, his wrath, whatever, is going to come like so strong because it's felt like something he's been anticipating highly. And I can't stress that enough. It's so powerful. What he's capable of, I have no idea, but it must be something else. But
are you more?
No. Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say, are you more? Do you have more of an appreciation for Christianity and organized religion since you've had these experiences, or less?
You know, it's funny because I personally still do not belong to any certain church myself, but I understand and appreciate why people have the passion that they do to praise and to get together to praise and worship. I can't knock anybody for their passion and what they feel in being and bringing themselves together like that. And prayer does work, and it does work in bigger and better and bigger numbers. So I think I have a better understanding, if anything, as to why people feel as they do to belong to such things. So I think the more the merrier, although I don't fully understand some of the restrictions that get placed on individuals, because I think in getting to know Jesus, it was so easy and so real, and it was effortless. I think that effort needs to be put forward in bettering ourselves, but he didn't come to me and say, Heidi, you better, fix this, fix that. I think that his presence alone inspires change. So I don't think it's necessary that he has to sit there and point the finger. I think in knowing him and knowing ourselves that if we kind of raise our vibrations and our better selves up, it's a lot less stressful and effortless. So.
Yeah. Actually, maybe I guess you could say that's a message in itself. I mean, he's encouraging people to move up to a higher vibration, and he can't really give you any formulas except for some of the obvious ones, like love God and love your neighbor.
Right.
Now, how do you feel, say, about Muslims praying to God or Jews? Does that make a difference, really, whether they're Christian or Muslims or Jews, or?
Again, for myself to say that one religion is no good, I think any belief that is about bettering yourself and putting your focus toward the one God is a good thing. I know that they don't have the Jesus that I know, in regard to the Christian Jesus. They don't put them in that regard, either of those religions that you mentioned there. But I surely don't. I don't think that they're less of a person or something because they believe as they do. Because we all have different chances to be exposed to different things, and in some parts of the world, they really don't have access or it's not instilled in them to believe as we do in Jesus. But as I mentioned earlier, one of my good friends that's Jewish, very Jewish, and he had an encounter with Jesus, and Jesus didn't tell him, hey, be sure you go to church from now on. But, so I don't think that Jesus discriminates.
I agree. Have your political beliefs changed at all?
In regard to having seen Jesus, no, they haven't. No.
Now, were you a ghost hunter before?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Were you interested in ghost hunting before? Did I hear you say that?
I'm not ghost hunting. I just had ghosts haunting me. How's that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of those people that happens to, I don't know, wherever I go, they're waving hello or something, and I'm telling you, I kind of put my spiritual foot down when it came to that, because I really don't appreciate ghosts, and I don't think their reasons for hanging around are good reasons. God surely wouldn't let the spirit of someone hang around if they were good and decent, you know. So I personally don't care what they want to know or why they're coming to bug me.
Okay, well, thank you very much for answering my questions. And
God
bless
calling.
you.
I really appreciate. Thank you. God bless you too. Thanks for calling.
I'll be sure to check out your website.
Awesome. Cool.
Thanks, Gary. All right. That was, Dr. Gary Frick there, a regular listener to the show and has been a guest quite a few times himself. So always nice to have him drop in and call. So,
very cool.
So very wonderful.
It was really nice talking to him. I have to see what his books are.
Yeah, his books are, we've definitely had him on talking about them, and they're very interesting. I've enjoyed reading. He's got 4 out, I think, working on another, if I'm not mistaken, and I've enjoyed reading them and having him on and speaking to him about them. I really enjoyed them.
Wow, very cool.
Now, kind of talking about a second coming or the return of Jesus. That was, a very interesting part in the book where you were, and please correct me if I have the whole basis of the story wrong, but you had went to Sunday school and the Sunday school teacher was talking about Revelations, and this really struck a chord with you, and then upon going home, these emotions really started pouring out, and your father had said something along the lines of, don't worry about it, it's not going to happen, while we're around, and you made the comment, I will be around.
Yeah, I was, I had to be 5 or 6 years old, and what a thing to talk to a little kid about Revelations at church, and it really saddened me, and it disturbed me so deeply that I was crying about it to my dad, and just I just felt like such a realization that I'm going to be around when this takes place, and something is going on that I can't help but to take note of. It's everywhere. I guess I have to touch a little bit on my final encounter that I had with him to kind of pull this story together. It was April of 2000 that I had. I was trying to recall different memories about different things or just to see what I could find. And I have never been successful in being hypnotized or anything like that. And I had a few friends that were hypnotherapists, and nothing ever worked. Well, I was met with this one gentleman that I knew. He was a professor, and I asked him, can you put me in a hypnotic state, and see what I could remember. He's like, well, I never guide a person to find answers about anything. I'll just put you in a relaxed state, and what you see is what you see. And I'm like, okay, great. And he gets me in this nice relaxed state, and lo and behold, as soon as I'm in this relaxed state, Jesus is so close to my face that all I can see are his eyes, and all I could say to, the guy that put me in the relaxed state, he goes, what do you see? Because my breath had pretty much left me, and all I could whisper was blue eyes, and his eyes were this, it gives me goosebumps even thinking about it, had such a blue, it was like a sky blue with like a light behind them. And I knew instinctively that this was not the color of his eyes when he was here on Earth, but this was a different kind of blue to his eyes. And I don't remember his face. He did step back where I was able to see him and everything, but I cannot recall what he looked like. And he guided me to, we're in this it was like a valley in between 2 mountains, like a park almost. And there were different paths, and one path went up to the side of this hill, this mountain, and he didn't say anything. He kind of guided me to the doorway, and I could see it was very dark and dank and musty and smelled, very muddy. And I saw roots hanging down from like the growth on the mountain into this like tunnel. And he started walking ahead of me, and it got so dark so immediately as we walked down this tunnel. And I'm thinking, where is he taking me? And but I wanted to almost reach for his robe because it was. But I felt comfort at the same time, so I didn't have to do it. And he walked ahead of me, and we walked to some distance, and he came to another doorway, and he kind of crouched down so I could look over his shoulder as he opened up this other door. And I looked over his shoulder, and I kid you not, I was not a person that believed in anything like this, but I saw a narrow rock-like bridge that went over to this platform. And on this platform, there were these iron, gates and an iron door. And there was a creature behind this iron gate that was pacing back and forth, and it started pacing madly when it looked up and saw Jesus there. And all I can say, this was hell. I mean, it's for me to see something like that, and I knew what the invitation was from Jesus at that point was he wanted to take me on a tour of hell. And I remember looking over his shoulder, looking at that creature, looking at these free fall like canyons on either side of this narrow bridge, and I told him, I said, no, thank you. I know this place. I remembered what this was about because of another instance that I had. And he kind of smiled in acknowledgement and was happy to know that I understood what I was working for, so people would not be met with that kind of reality, to be a resident of hell, I guess you could say. And so we started to walk out of this tunnel and into the light, and he gave me that warm smile and just such a feeling of satisfaction that I understood. So to kind of pull some things together, I had an encounter, or I should say it was more of one of these like waking dreams is what I call them. I don't know. It's like you have these dreams that are so real and they stick with you for a lifetime, and it's hard to believe it didn't actually happen. Well, right. This was, I had a dream that all of a sudden I woke up inside somebody else's body that was a resident of hell. That sounds strange even for me, I know. It's just, I'm just like, whoa, and I remember seeing these, I saw cages, I saw muddy rooms and people walking aimlessly, and I saw someone there that I knew that was not dead yet, and I thought, what? When I woke up from this, I'm like, that seemed like a really, really real thing that happened, but she was there. That's impossible. Now, since I've had these visions, I've had many of people come to me. I don't know if I've got like a target on my forehead that says talk to me about weird things, but even before people know what I'm into, they'll come and start talking about, I had the strangest dream last night. I woke up in hell. And I'm like, what? What's going on? So many people, including I was a guest on a radio show not too long ago, and after the show, the host of the show said, I keep having these dreams of waking in this smelly, dark place that is very, very hot and being tortured by these keepers. And I mean, oh my gosh, it goes on and on and on. People are having these run-ins with, or in their sleep, they're having these times, these periods of being residents of hell, and I'm also getting the flip side where people are having these trips to a heaven-like place with crystal buildings and like Greek-like architecture. It's just, it's as if they're getting a taste of what's to come. Like the line is being drawn between the two factions, the evil and good, and I don't know. It's like the armies are getting trained or something. And I tell people, if you're having dreams, if you've even had one dream that you've been a resident of hell and you're still like trapped there in these small cages. People say I was naked, cramped in these small cages. Please get something right in your life, because something is not right, and it's ongoing. And I sit here and I get these letters, and I'm like, I want to just get on a loud microphone and scream at people. Do you realize how many are coming forward with this? It's not just you. There are so many having these experiences. It's not a coincidence, and they don't realize that their neighbor is writing me too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel that people really need to. Our dreams mean something. I'm not a guru. I'm not a prophet. I'm not anything special. I'm just somebody who pays attention to what comes to me at night. And whole chapters in the Bible have been written on dreams, and we take these people's word for it all these many centuries later. Who's to say that these things are that God isn't still talking to us in our dreams, and that people are experiencing what they are because these are lessons to be learned. We have to take them to heart.
Yeah, and you're right. So much of the Bible is dreams and visions and symbolism. Right. There's very few just straightforward kind of stuff. I mean, it is. A lot of the most, the well-known prophets has all come through visions and dreams. I mean, revelations.
Right.
Exactly, what it was. It was a vision.
Right. It's like, I'm not so strange or rare. I really am not. It's going on, and, I wish that I could just post it all out there, for people to realize how common it is, and how often those like myself get pulled to the side and are told about their experiences. And I really appreciate Gary having called just now, because, it's nice to hear somebody else out there doing the same thing, trying to get the message out, trying to get these stories together, and these realization that this is going on. It's Jesus is showing up to, people that seem to be more associated with his side, his efforts. Now, there's another phenomenon going on that I tend to give some attention to as of late, a being that I once thought was a shadow person. That's my other so-called expertise, of talking on shadow people. And I had his drawing on my website, and I started getting letters from all over the world of people sharing their stories about this man in a black trench coat with, or a cape, 3-piece suit, and a flat-rimmed gaucho-like hat. And I had called him Hat Man. Uh-huh. Well, the name stuck, and people continue to call this man the Hat Man. And they tell me, I woke up to this man staring at me, and sometimes he'll tip his hat, and other times he just stares at him. And if they ask me, who is he? And they always answer, not always, but they often answer their question and say, he's the devil, isn't he? They just know within themselves who this is standing before them. Okay. And I've had people who had attempted suicide. And one person in particular said they woke up after their attempt and looked to their side. There's the Hat Man sitting next to him saying, I was this close to having you. And he shows up at times of death, severe depression, people who use drugs, alcohol, you name it, after an accident or just before an accident. And I had one fellow that said he was in a barrack or something. He was about to go on duty. He was Army police or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was getting ready for his shift, and he saw a civilian walking through the barracks, and he was like, oh my gosh, who are you? What are you doing in here? And he tipped his hat and he said, I'm Scratch. And the guy woke up, and he had never gotten up. He was in his bed, and he was shocked. And he's like, well, isn't that a strange name for a Scratch? Well, that's an Old Norse term for Old Scratch, the devil.
Huh.
So he has introduced himself to people. So if he is visiting, people that have darker tendencies, and Jesus is visiting, I don't know, those that are more open to him, what's going on? What's the message?
Yeah.
Something is happening. There's night and day. But I would have to say though too, just because the Hat Man has shown up to you, doesn't mean that all is lost. Because I did have a good friend that had an encounter with Jesus as well as the Hat Man. So sometimes it's an individual battle that's being fought by
Right.
that one person. So not all is lost. There, up until your last breath, you have a chance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, no, I agree. And now talking about not seeing Jesus' face, you've had a chapter about it, on Faceless. And I mean, why do you feel you never really seen his face? And I guess did you, facelessness.
The spell check didn't catch that one, right?
Yeah, spell check didn't even try to stop me from using that word.
Yeah.
Well, but before you get in that, because there was another one that you used. It was buttheads, and you made the comment that spell check didn't pick it up. So yes, buttheads must exist.
Yes. Oh gosh, yeah, it was amazing to me. It was an adventure writing this book, let me tell you. Oh God.
Okay. Sorry to kind of change there, but talking about it, reminding about the buttheads comment, I cracked out. I just busted out laughing with that comment. But facelessness. Why? Mm-hmm. Why do you feel that you didn't see his face?
Well, I don't think that it was all that important to have to dwell on exactly what he looked like, from like I was going to sit there and paint him or something. I think that it's better to go by faith and not having this certain image, just burned in my memory, to be all focused on what he looked like. I just feel that it's more important to follow his lead more than anything. So, yeah, I don't know, because people get caught up in details, like I mentioned before, and it's so silly to me. I don't get it. I don't get why they're trying to see, was Jesus married, what's the Da Vinci Code this and Da Vinci Code that. I was in Israel, and they were talking about the freaking Da Vinci Code. I could not believe it. I'm like, gosh, even here in the middle of the desert, people are fascinated with how can we blast the topic of Jesus a little bit more, Right. I could not understand it. To try to throw doubt or question in the face of anybody's belief, I don't think it's a good practice. And I don't think it matters. I think what matters is the heart of the person and where they're aiming their good intentions, and it's so silly to me. It's like, I understand, we can all think that, Christianity is the best way to go, and, I personally feel this is the best way for me, I have, one of my best friends is Muslim, and one of my best friends is Israeli, so it's, do I think they're evil? No, I think they're both great people. Do I think they're going to heaven? It's not my judgment call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's my place at all. I think that I get along with them great. Here they have this this friend that books about having seen Jesus, of all things, you know, and they still call me a friend. They don't make fun of me. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, do you, you even kind of touched on about it as well in the book about, people having these dreams of, catastrophes and, cities burning and, things that were even said that, in the Bible that these are, things that are going to happen and He's going to, show them to you. Do you feel people are becoming more in tune with God and with Jesus and heading in the direction we need to spiritually?
I think whether we're ready or not, something is coming and something is pointing our way to get the message that change is about to happen. I have several friends and family members and strangers that talk to me about their just cataclysmic events like meteor showers, earthquakes, floods, alien invasion, alien wars. And these are people that are not generally generally interested in these topics. They're like, wow, I had this weirdest dream, And it's said in the Bible that, in the final days, your young men will dream dreams of, things to come. And it's like, well, is this it? Is this what was meant? There are so many hits being dropped, but how many people are actually making the connection among themselves? Why do they have to pick up a book like mine or listen to a radio show like this to get the message? Right. And all they have to do is knock on their neighbor's door and ask them, did you ever have a dream like that? And just to feel comfortable enough to say yes and to actually believe your neighbor when they say something. So many people are so scientifically based to have, the facts,
right.
have it laid out for them. I'm like, there are some things that you just are not going to get the answer to. You just have to take people's word for it. And does it hurt you to hear what's going on? No, it doesn't hurt you, but it may educate you.
Right. Yeah, and we do live in a very scientific, culture, or even globally. I mean, everybody wants it proven somehow or another that it exists or that it can happen. And being with what we talk about here on the show, and your experiences with talking about UFOs and researching that. Well, that's practically impossible. There's things that you just have to have faith in it. How to prove that they exist is something that baffles, the entire paranormal community, just to name one. I mean, how do you prove a ghost really exists? I don't know. I mean, does one pick you up and slam you to the ground before you believe?
Right.
Yeah, so it is. And it is kind of a shame that we just sometimes don't want to put our faith in something, whether it's Jesus or God or, the possibility of the existence of a ghost. There's going to be a lot of things that we just don't know about. So definitely.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely agree. And, I wanted to go over something that you had in the book as well, and that was the chapter, If You Knew He Was Really Coming. And you kind of had your own little checklist of what you would do if you really knew he was coming.
Oh, boy.
And so what is this checklist? What are some of the things on your checklist, and why, is that on there apart from other things?
Because I think that in the face of the reality of what is definitely around the corner at some point, I think it is important to think out loud, because we all know that we have flaws, and just to be honest about it, because I'm as flawed as the next person, and I know we sweat the small stuff, and the small stuff is what kills us every time. It's like, I don't walk around, killing people. That's big stuff. That's out in the open stuff that, of course, not to do and everybody can point the finger at. But what about those inner things that people don't really know what I'm up to,
Yeah.
So I'd mentioned, not letting, small matters bother me, just not nitpicking about things. And what was that list? Not getting involved in hurting others. It's like some of our comments can be really, you think it's harmless to crack a joke, whether behind somebody's back or in front of their face, and it's not a cool thing to do because, although they may not be within earshot, God knows what you just pulled.
Right.
So I don't think it's cool to do that and to get involved in the little petty squabbles, that eye for an eye mentality, I don't think that's cool. So I think that, just looking at our inner selves, and we all do know if we are capable of doing something a little more rotten than the average person. So
yeah.
It's like you're not fooling anybody but yourself if you're not honest about it.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then you also had being more involved with the problems I see, and I mean that is a great point to bring up. We see problems all around us. I mean, for goodness sakes, we're in just a mess right now with an economic crisis and things kind of going downhill. But thank God gas prices went down, but everybody's having problems right now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that we all do, need to lend a hand to what it is we see around us. I mean, if everybody could clean up their mess in their area where they're standing, we would have a cleaner spot, and less work being dumped on one person because we're all chipping in. So, it's always easy to think, well, somebody else will get that covered. I don't have to lend my energy to it. But what if the next person thinks that, and the next person, who's actually going to get to it then? It's like we're all on this little blue planet together, and if we're not all pitching in, I just don't see I don't see how a major effort could be put forward to make a big enough spot to make a clean spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Heidi, it looks like we've got another caller on the line here, so.
Great.
Get them. Hopefully I can work my mute button a little better this time. Caller 862, you're on Shadows in the Dark with Heidi Hollis. What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, this is Don from New Jersey. How are you?
Hey, Don, how are you?
Great.
I'm doing okay. Heidi, hey, listen, I hope you don't mind, but I was kind of wondering if I could kind of change the topic a little bit. I was curious, how long did it take you to write the book, and how did you go about getting it published? Because that's the one area that a lot of these paranormal people just never talk about, is the process that goes into the writing of it. And I was really curious how you were able to do it. How did you find the time? And did you end up self-publishing it or do a vanity press, or what happened?
That's a good question because it is an icky process. It took me 2 months to write my first book and 4 years to get it published. Isn't that something?
Wow.
I was in college, full-time college student, doing internships and all. It was crazy. But, yeah. So I got that done. I got an agent, went through the whole process, and I had some close calls with publishers saying they would take it, and then they didn't. And when 4 years was came around, I'm like, enough is enough. And I found a print-on-demand publisher for that first book, and it went from there, where it was distributed worldwide and got me on the circuit as I am. But some people think they could just put a book out there and hope people find it. Well, if you're truly passionate about what it is that you're doing, you take the step to get out there and let people know what it is you wrote about and why. Because for me, it was more about the message. I've got a great career as an occupational therapist. I'm fine, So it's like I do this because I feel passionate about it to put it out there. So that's a good way to get started because publishers do not like to give new authors a chance. So you have to give yourself a chance and not wait for them. So I wasted a lot of time. So.
Right. It seems to me that, though, when it comes to like self-publishers, though, I know of libraries, they will stay away from the self-publishing markets unless it's like very local and very niched. And same thing with like some of the bigger chains like Borders, Borders, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get in there unless you like used, I think it's Barnes & Noble's iUniverse publication or self-publishing. And did you find that it was tough getting the books out there as well?
Oh, yeah, you can't get it into those places. Are you kidding me? No way, but it doesn't stop you from getting off your backside and going into the conferences and conventions and talking to the people directly yourself, and that's what I did. I gave up being a therapist for the first 5 years after graduating college because I was that passionate about what it was I wrote and what I wanted to do to help people. So I it takes a lot of sacrifice, and so I did it because I felt it was that important for myself.
Gotcha.
So essentially 9 years of not getting paid for doing what you love. So you got to put in the time.
Talk to any musician in the world. Talk to any musician in the world, and they'll say the exact same thing.
Oh yeah. If it's your passion, you do it. And you know what? What's important to note, to get a little bit back more on the Jesus topic, that is what drove me more than anything, having had the encounters that I did. Because when he told me to finish that first book, I knew that I was on the right track. And every time I got up to speak, which I did not like doing it, I knew he was there with me, and that's the only thing that got me through. I would not have had the confidence or the belief that I did that I could do it because he stood behind me the whole time. And little did people know, here's this paranormal UFO chick, with Jesus at her side the whole time. People just weren't fully aware of it.
Gotcha. Did you find that in the process that things just kind of, shall I say, miraculously opened up? Like providentially opened up?
I think so, but it's still, all the doors have not flown open. It's been a struggle. Here I am on Shadows in the Dark Radio talking about Jesus. You haven't heard me on any Christian shows. They haven't haven't quite opened up the doorway yet. So, but it's like, it's great folks like Jeremiah that take the time to hear out, all sorts of angles and all sorts of stories to allow us to have a voice to share these stories. So, yeah. I mean, I'm still known as the paranormal person.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
What's that?
Speaking of voices, Jeremiah, you got to do the throat singing.
I promised I would on one show, and when I feel I've got it down pretty well, then it's going to happen. So
I will guarantee that when you start with the throat singing, you will get people praying to Jesus. So anyway.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, Don, thanks so much for calling in. It was great.
Thank you. Good luck with everything, Heidi, too.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, there we go with the throat singing again. So
it's all good.
And give us your website again, as we're kind of on that line of talking about your book there.
Yeah, people can go to HeidiHollis.com. That's HeidiHollis.com. All my books and all my websites are linked off from that site, as well as the events that I speak at. And they can pretty much pick up a book wherever books are sold. If they don't have them on hand, they can always order it. And people should feel free to write me, let me know their thoughts about anything that I'm doing. And if there's something they think I could do better, I'm trying. So feel free to write me.
All right. And
also my YouTube, I forgot about that. I've been also taking a lot of people's letters and questions and putting them up on my YouTube channel, so feel free to go there, subscribe to the videos or whatever, and it's going to be actually picking up its pace soon because I got a producer that wants to make them a little bit more shiny than they are. So.
Oh, well, wonderful.
Be awesome.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I have to be honest with you. I really never would have thought that Shadows in the Dark would be doing a show on Jesus in this manner. I'm gonna, we try to be as honest as possible here on the show, and I know when I first contacted you, and it was really, in regards to your book on shadow people, and you're like, well, I have a new book out. You do know what it's about, don't you? And,
yeah.
Like, what? Again, we definitely feel here that everyone has a voice, regardless of what the topic may be. And, we thought, no, we have no reason to say no to you to come on and speak, about Jesus. There's, no reason to do it. So,
I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Oh, you are most welcome. And I'd say I really did enjoy the book. It was a good book, and I hope that, those out there listening will at least, take the time to check it out and purchase it and read it, because it was, it's definitely on the level. It's a good read. You don't go over anybody's head with it. And like I said, the humor in it's great, because I think, anybody can really relate with the humor. I mean, honestly, I almost pictured you just sitting down, typing away, and laughing as you were going.
I did. I did. And I still crack open the book and start laughing sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I put that in there.
Yeah, there are definitely some pieces in there that I had to think, why would you want to tell anybody that? Yeah. But it was good. It definitely, I think it was on a personal level. So I really enjoyed it. Now, Heidi, we've only got probably about 3 more minutes before we close the show out. And, just, is there anything we didn't cover that you really want to make sure to get out there?
I want people to, as honest as I can put it, to realize that the guy named Jesus was not a fairy tale. Santa Claus is not the real story behind Christmas. Jesus is so real. I always feel like I don't have the right words to put it together, to put it out there. I'm trying my best, and I think people need to take it in, feel it out, take what parts are easiest to understand, and try to wiggle it into their life a little bit, to know that He will be coming no matter what faith, whatever it is that you believe in. There's such an immediate recognition as to who He is when you see Him. There's no question. There's no devil in disguise as an angel of light or whatever. When He comes, every cell in your body will scream, it's Jesus, and you will be in the know then. But I think it'd be better to know now who He is, and try to get a little bit of background on Him, and try to steer your life a little bit more toward more positive things and the message that He brought and is still bringing. So I just try to drive that home. I'm not trying to create converts, but the reality is He's real. Right. And, Jesus is no joke, really, and I can't say it any better.
Now, what would you recommend for someone to get to know Jesus better? Prayer, attending church more regularly. Any, really good, ways.
I think when we sit at home, we do tend to get distracted with things that were our regular routine, television, playing on the computer or whatever, So sometimes it is good to step outside of the home and to meet other people, to chat these things over, a Bible study or whatever, wherever it is you can get out and keep it real with people and be able to talk about your doubts, your questions and everything. And, what other book is there that really covers them, except the Bible? So you have to go to that source. You have to, try to become familiar with it. And take it in, interpret it what feels right with you, because a lot of people will slap their own interpretations on it and try to bark at you about what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know in your heart what is right and what's wrong. So God gave you that right to know. So.
Well, Heidi, it's been definitely a pleasure chatting with you tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me on. This is awesome, and I look forward to coming on to talk about shadow people with you.
Yeah, most definitely. We want to talk about that too.
Oh yeah, I know. We'll get to it. Thanks for letting me share this, though. I really appreciate it.
No, Dan, like I say, this show is for the listeners and the guests. I am just a mediator, and so I definitely appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Cool, thank you.
And you have a good night, and we will be speaking to you here in just a few minutes, all right?
Awesome.
All right, everyone. Yes, we want to thank Heidi Hollis for definitely joining us tonight. The book is Jesus is No Joke, a true story of an unlikely witness who saw Jesus. You can visit the website at www.HeidiHollis.com, and that is HeidiHollis, all one word. Or, of course, you can go to www.JesusIsNoJoke.com. Make sure to check it out. Like I said, I did get the opportunity to read the book, and I really enjoyed it. It is definitely on the level. Doesn't go over your head. It's a great read. There's some great humor in there as well. I think most anybody can relate to, so make sure to check that out. Just a few reminders, about things coming up. Remember, this Saturday we are going to be broadcasting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have no show on Sunday because we're going to be broadcasting live from the Green Park Inn Paranormal Conference for an hour on Saturday. So make sure to tune in for that. Again, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you would like to, make sure to visit our web store. Just go to www.shadowsinthedarkradio.com. Click on the link that says store. And if you type in the coupon code Happy Holidays, now that is 2 words, you'll receive 15% off. Well, I want to thank you, everybody, for tuning in, all those in the chat room, and thanks again to Heidi Hollis for joining us tonight for that great, great conversation. And if you feel like it and you want to, go vote for us as Best Podcast at the Bloggers' Choice Awards. We have the links to it on our homepage at the website, right here on our profile page on Blog Talk Radio. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. You have been listening to Shadows in the Dark, where the darkness is illuminated.
Shadows in the dark.